The Liberal Party has confessed that they're the ones behind the anonymous smear campaign against Vic Taves, designed to humiliate him into canceling Bill C-30, the proposal to give police new powers to investigate online crimes. That smear campaign was in the form of a Twitter website that the Liberals called VikiLeaks. Now, that leaked embarrassing personal information from Taves' divorce files. It wasn't a crime to do so. The information wasn't hacked. It was publicly available at the court. There was no attempt to blackmail Taves. It was just a personally abusive attack on a man's family. The Speaker of the House ruled that it was an improper use of taxpayers' money, and Parliament has summoned the Liberal staffer who was blamed for it all, Adam Carroll, to testify. Needless to say, Carroll has called in sick. He's got the sniffles. So conveniently, he can't answer questions. Yeah, like questions like who else in the Liberal Party was involved? And who approved it? And did Liberal MPs like Justin Trudeau, who promoted the heck out of that website, did they know about it? Of course they did. Of course they knew. And that's why Adam Carroll isn't coming to Parliament. But that's just political embarrassments. Like I say, there was no crime committed, just bad judgment. And just a reminder that the Liberal Party is the party of dirty tricks, even though the media party, especially the CBC, have already forgiven them. Look at this.
Bob Rae did come out. He did take responsibility. The staffer was removed, resigned. I think that probably puts the issue behind them.
Nothing to see here. Go back to sleep. In fact, the CBC really isn't interested in asking any more questions about VikiLeaks now that the story has moved away from Vic Taves' personal life and onto which Liberals decided to dumpster dive a minister's personal life. But the CBC really wants to wring out any last drop from the RoboCall's non-story. Remember what we know, that Elections Canada received a single complaint about a recorded phone message in the Liberal riding of Guelph pretending to be from Elections Canada, telling people to go to the wrong voting station. Now, no one knows who made that automatic call, but naturally the media party assumes it was the Conservatives, because we know the Liberals would never engage in trickery and deception, like setting up a deceptive Twitter account. Anyways, yesterday, the day that Adam Carroll refused to show up to answer questions about VikiLeaks, the CBC tried one more time to breathe life into their robot phone call story. Here's a clip from The National, just a month behind the rest of the pack, but still following their talking points just the same.
Now, CBC News has turned up voters all over the country.
This is an automated message from Elections Canada. Due to a projected increase in voter turnout, your poll location has been changed.
It happened all over the country, and a pattern emerges in at least 31 ridings surveyed by CBC News. From coast to coast, misdirection calls were targeted at people who were not Tory supporters.
That's Terry Malevsky. He's my favorite reporter at the CBC when he's digging into real stories like the Air India bombing or Jean Chrétien's staff ordering the Mounties to pepper spray peaceful protesters at the University of British Columbia in the 90s. He's the toughest and best the CBC has, which is why it's so pitiful that he was dispatched to such a lame, made-up political story. I mean, just look at what Terry was reduced to doing. That recording of the automatic phone message claiming to be from Elections Canada, you know, the one that was played, it was actually played several times in several parts of the country on the show last night in the National. Well, that was faked by the CBC. They were playing a recording for sure, but the recording they were playing over and over, the only recording of its kind that exists was the one from Guelph, Ontario. But in their show last night, the CBC played that Guelph call again and again as a fictional recreation of what happened in other ridings. You know, a dramatization as in making it up, because they just don't actually have any evidence of recorded calls like that anywhere else in the country. They say it's in 31 ridings, but they only have actually just one riding where it happened, but they replayed it around the country. Look, that's pretty weak. But then look at this.
This is so-and-so calling on behalf of Stephen Harper and Keith Ashfield for the Conservative Party.
So now we're talking about, not about robot phone calls anymore, pretending to be from Elections Canada. Now we're talking about a live person calling and introducing himself as a Conservative, she went on to say. He wasn't pretending to be from Elections Canada. He gave his name, said he was a Conservative, and he gave directions about where the polling location is. So now we have the memory of a woman 10 months after the election, but it's a hazy memory. She can't recall the details. She admits the caller said his name. She didn't bother to write it down. So we have the hazy memory of a non-Conservative 10 months later saying, well, what exactly? That it was a robot phone call? No, it was a live caller. Pretending to be from Elections Canada? No, she remembers the caller clearly introduced himself as a Tory. She says he gave confusing information about where the polling station was. Could be she's confused, could be they're both confused. After all, Elections Canada changed voting locations more than 100 times in the last election. Who knows what happened? But we know what didn't happen. It wasn't a robot call pretending to be from Elections Canada. This is what the giant killer from APEC and the Air India inquiry has been reduced to. Replaying a Guelph phone call to illustrate a story that sort of dies without it. Adding in other complaints. I was called during supper time. I was called by someone with an accent to help puff up a story that is being deflated. Sorry, RoboCall was a joke scandalette. Nobody believes it anymore. It's sad that Terry Milewski is the last one to die in that media party war. But I've got a better project for the CBC to dig into. It's a tailor-made project for a real digger like Terry, who's more used to going after real problems like foreign terrorists than just rereading Liberal Party talking points. How about what I talked about yesterday on the show, what the CBC is studiously ignoring? I'm talking about the RCMP investigation into the online extortion of Cabinet Minister Vic Taves. Yesterday I showed you how a website using the same divorce material as VikiLeaks did, at the same time, tipped off to the same group of Ottawa journalists, threatened to blackmail Taves. Here's what it looked like. So you've got the Liberal Party. They secretly launch a deceptive VikiLeaks website, a knockoff of the real WikiLeaks. Then they announce their official online petition. And then this anonymous website, a knockoff of the real anonymous group hackers, starts up just hours later, all using the same content, all being pretty amateurish, all being tipped to the same parliamentary press gallery. The only difference, though, here's the recording right here. The only difference is that, unlike VikiLeaks, this anonymous video on YouTube had a threat of extortion. That's why it's a crime that the RCMP is investigating and not just a prank like VikiLeaks. What would Adam Carroll say under oath if he was asked about this anonymous video that we're playing right now? What would he say on pain of perjury? Is that why he won't show up to Parliament? Is that why he has the sniffles? Now, yesterday I asked Daniel Lozon of the Liberal Party if they had anything to do with this anonymous extortion threat. After our show's deadline, he sent me an email telling me that he checked with the Liberal Party's Research Bureau and with the Leader's Office, and that, quote, after looking into the VikiLeaks issue, we determined that Anonymous acted independently, unquote. Okay, that's what their spokesman said. I'm sure he's telling the truth. I have no reason to think otherwise, other than the fact that just a few days ago, the Liberals were deceiving the media about VikiLeaks too, which bears many of the same hallmarks here, the same content, the same time frame, the same divorce files, the same media tip-offs, except for that this one's a criminal matter. Okay, fine. It's all circumstantial evidence, nothing more than Terry Milewski on the CBC last night had. Okay, a little bit more. I didn't have to fake a phone call for my show. But then Brigitte Perleran of our Ottawa office noticed this. Check it out. On the anonymous website, this is the extortion website that was set up just hours after VikiLeaks was set up, you can see a link to the VikiLeaks website. It was mirrored or copied to make sure it would live on, even if the Liberals had to delete the original site. Wow, that's pretty helpful to the Liberals. Surely a coincidence, isn't it? But then look at this. Look at this other anonymous website. There was a few of them. This is the extortion website. This has a link to another website based in Mexico. Now, what happens when you link that Mexican link there? Well, it's a page to contact Vic Taves directly. And what's that? What's that say? What's that link there? It's a link to the Liberal Party's official online petition. Click on it. Well, isn't that a coincidence? So Anonymous, this extortionist group, pretending to be a group of international class hackers, that's who the real Anonymous is, the kind of people who take down the FBI's website or break into the Pentagon's computers, anarchists who hate every party, who despise all politicians, they link to the Liberal Party's online petition? Really? Yeah, really? That's a coincidence? Really? So the extortionist website, the one threatening to blackmail Vic Taves, is launched within hours of the Liberal VikiLeaks site. It uses the same material, is leaked to the same Ottawa insider reporters, it republishes VikiLeaks, it links to a site that directs people to the Liberal Party's petition. And that's all a coincidence, is it? Well, I asked Daniel Lozon about this amazing set of coincidences this morning, and here's what he wrote back. Quote, I want to stress that we do not support or condone the tactics used by both VikiLeaks and Anonymous, unquote. As I mentioned to you yesterday, after looking into the VikiLeaks issue, we determined that Anonymous acted independently. Okay, so Lozon says that they don't support or condone tactics used by VikiLeaks, but actually they did, didn't they? Maybe they don't today because they're embarrassed and exposed, but VikiLeaks was done by a Liberal staffer named Adam Carroll. So I'm skeptical when he uses the exact same response to talk about VikiLeaks as he is now about my inquiry about Anonymous. Now, I have no direct evidence that the extortionists here worked for the Liberals, but I have a lot of circumstantial evidence of collaboration, certainly more than the CBC has in their lame efforts to revive the faltering RoboCall story. So while the CBC is busy recreating fictional dramatizations of facts that don't exist, don't mind me as I ask some real questions about a real crime and a lot of unanswered questions from the Liberals.